Welcome, team. Finally, we're here. If you're tuning in, you would have not known the stress that I've had over the last 15 minutes to make this pre-recording that we're doing at 7 o'clock. And the boys have luckily put up with me tonight. But anyway, yes, we are back with a very special show, which is going to be titled What to Do If You Don't Get in the Ballot. Because guess what? You probably ain't. And we're going to fix that tonight because I've got Wilco, Jai, and Coach Al with me. Now, before we get into it, boys, Coach Al, I'll start with you. Have you ever been rejected from a ballot?
It's probably quicker and easier to say how many times I haven't been rejected by the ballot because there's a long list. Okay. So, yeah, most years from London, couple of times from New York, every year from Tokyo.
Hero.
But I managed to get in on a charity place, and I'm not sure I've entered it since. And then my only successful ballot has been Chicago. So
wow, okay,
I had some ballot success, to be fair. Yeah.
All right, that's good. Wilco.
No, not a lot. Few halves. I think some of these halves, like you seem to get in the first year, and then you don't get on for the rest of your natural life.
I think that's a fix.
But like landmarks and things like that. That's happened to me a couple of times.
Okay.
That's about it.
No to the majors? No?
No.
Okay. And then we've got the man who's in charge of... No, he's not. Jai, give us an intro into what your background is and all that sort of stuff. And then, within that 30 seconds, tell us whether you've been lucky in the ballot.
Sure. So background is never used to be a runner. Used to be way too much into my gym, my other sports. But getting older, sort of got the running bug sort of over the last few years. Done a few marathons, a few halves, a couple of 10Ks in the last few years, and sort of looking at, really ticking a few of the more high profile ones off. That leads me to how many ballots. I actually ran this the other day. I actually ran the number the other day. I have applied for 18 ballots. I have got into 0 of those 18 in my life. So we're not running hot on that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's a funny old thing. Boys, do we think life would be easier if it wasn't ballots? What do you think, Coach Al?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because we're participating in a sport that's just gone phenomenal in terms of demand. And I like to think back to the 90s, actually, and I hope that running takes on the same trajectory that golf did. Back in the early 90s, you could not get on a golf course for love nor money in London and the southeast, and yet these days you can just rock up and run golf whenever you want. So I'm hoping everyone loses interest and it's just easy just to sign up on the day. You rock down to the mile, you just ask for your bib and off you go. But realistically, that's not going to happen, is it? So the ballot system's here to stay, I'm afraid. We just got to live with it.
Oh, it's a bit nice. Jai, give us a bit of background into Ballot.run, if you don't mind, quickly.
Sure. So I think a lot of the idea came down to I was applying for ballots. I was trying to plan out my race calendar. I was trying to take running a bit more seriously, trying to get into some more races, because I think racing's, nothing beats it, right? You guys must admit when you get on that start line and you get there, that's what all of those 6 months, 3 months, whatever it's been about. But I never knew when all of the ballots were open, and they're open for such a finite amount of time. London's open, 7 days? A lot of the other ones follow suit, right? So if you don't quite time your calendar correctly, you could be looking forward, 18 months, 2 years with trying to get into it just to find a result to get one of these. So what I was trying to do with Ballot is basically aggregate all the information that's out there for the balloted races, and right now, it's obviously the majors for the marathons, but also the super halves. They're going, and I guess we'll go into that later on, but they're going down a fully balloted route. I think all but one, which is Prague, but I'm sure that will follow suit now. And I think the more and more races and the more and more appetite everyone's getting for running, I think it's the only way it's going to go, right? Because a lot of these high profile races are selling out in hours. I mean, the Prague one I just mentioned before, that sold out within 4 hours, and that was a half marathon. It's not as sexy as the London Marathon, but it's getting a lot of attention. So what Ballot's trying to do is get everyone as much information on when to time the ballots, when they're open, when they're closed. But then primarily it's what to do when you don't get in the ballot. and I'm
Okay.
sure we'll
let's go there. Let's go there. So I'm not sure when London comes out. You obviously know that.
beginning of July.
Right. So me, Wilco, and Coach Al, as always, we've not got in. Right. Let's deal with London to start with.
Yeah.
What I think the first thing you do is get annoyed. Then you go on social media and you see all the influencers get the bibs, and then you get even more annoyed. And then we go, maybe I do want to do this. Is there like a charity opportunity? So talk to me a little bit about that, because you've got some data on that, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So so there's two out of the 6 options. There are 2 people. Once the ballot's closed, and you more than likely don't make it in. There's a couple of routes via charity. I guess to the end user, i.e. us, it's the same route, but I'll split them out for a bit more detail. So you have the standard charity route, which is made up of gold and silver bonds. Now, this makes up, I think, about half the field, something in the region of 18 to 22,000 spaces.
Wow.
London Marathon never actually publicly released the exact amounts that go into each, but that's kind of the date. What the data is saying is it's around 18 to 22,000 spaces in that. Now, what that was, that up until 2021, those gold bonds, which is basically 4 places per year, a charity gets, and the charity pays 400. It's now 400 plus VAT, so £480 for that space. And then you're expected to fundraise about £2,500. Now, the silver bonds, it's the same thing as the gold, except they only get 2 places per year. So it's the same. But the same cost up front for the charities. So those are your two options. Now, like I say, for you and I, that doesn't really matter. You find a charity that you want to go and raise for, and you try and get that space. So those are the main options. But the problem that's happening with the charity spots now, and especially for something like London, is with demand going up, prices going up, etc., they are now having to, and are able to, raise the bar on how much the minimum fundraisers. It's gone are the days where you could go down to your kid's primary school and have a cake sale and fundraise a couple of £100, right, and have that to fund it. We're looking at £2,500, which for the average person is not a small chunk of change.
No.
And the majority of these are now expecting, it's in the terms and conditions, that you foot the bill if you cannot make up that amount. So it's a commitment, but that's one of the real options. That's your main sort of guaranteed entry, as it were. So if you have the appetite and you have a good network, if you're fortunate to work, I'm very fortunate. I work in finance, so my company is very open to doing.
Where they back it, they do the same thing, don't they?
Exactly. So if you're fortunate enough to be in that position, like I say, we'll have a wide network, then that's definitely a route down the charity route. But with a big caveat that you will be more than likely expected to pay the difference if you can't. It's
quite interesting this year because again, I don't know. I run for charity every year, right? Ever since I've done London. This year, and obviously I've run every year, so it's harder to ask people for money, right?
Absolutely.
Because they go, "Oh, he's doing it again." So I understand that, right? But what was really interesting this year was how actually quite aggressive the charity was about stipulation. Oh, you've not done this, you've not done that. Where's this? Where's that? They're quite aggressive. And I went back to him and said, whoa, chill out. Firstly, I know what I signed up for. I'm not a moron. Secondly, I know, because I used to work in a charity, that the most of the income that I'm going to generate is going to be on the day or the 4 days after. I know that because I've seen the data. So take your strong-worded email, turn it around, and go and talk to the charity commission whether you're doing the right thing or not. It was a bit strong because I tell you what, I thought immediately, if I'm 29 years old, this is my first marathon, I'm training, and I'm in bits, it's paranoia, and I'm well under my fundraising, that's going to send me over the edge, that email. And I think they've got to be a bit careful. Now, I'm not going because as I said, I've raised for charity every single year because I love it. And it's my way of giving back, right? Because I take a lot from running. But I thought to myself, that's a bit cheeky, that is. So imagine if they're doing that to a lot of other people. I've never, and I say the charities I've run for this year was a new charity for me. The other charities I've never had that, but I wonder if it's like a new thing now because again, I appreciate why they're after money. I've worked for charities, yeah. I know the gig and how important that money is, but I also do know what I signed up for. So you word these things a little bit different. Hello, mate, how you doing? How's your fundraising going? Anything we can do to help? Blah, 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 blah. Instead of this is what this is. This is what you signed up for. You're well behind. Where's the cash? Which is what that felt like. I just felt like I was having my pockets raided. So I wonder if that's a sign of the times. Wilco, you're sitting there nodding in agreement.
Yeah, I mean, somebody who's, I've run 8 marathons and none of them have been a major. I haven't done London and I haven't done, I've done a couple of halves for charity, but that was when I already had a place. So I've never actually had a charity place in anything. And I can empathize that this puts me off.
Yeah.
And you're always here of people, and I've seen it in the in the run up to London. There's been lots of people that I know who are doing it. I've been to events, quizzes, bits and bobs for people trying to raise money. They are doing so much, but it's sort of like, because I've got to get this target by this, and then 6 weeks out, I've got to have done this. I've done that, and we know training for marathon's bloody hard anyway. You don't need this stress. So, it's not because I'm not willing to help people who are less fortunate than myself, or I'm not no, miserable sod. But if I had the choice of getting a marathon charity place and having to raise £3,000 to do London, or pay €150 and go to Paris and get a place and run around there, that's what I did. It is a lot of stress. It's a lot of stuff on people. I mean, I'm in the process now of looking into it, and Jai's made the valid point about matching. So I've been to HR in the last few weeks because I knew we were coming on. And so what's the terms then? Can you do this? Oh, didn't know we could do that. We'll get back to you. So they're thinking about that. I don't know whether Jai will be able to touch on this, but I also discovered a couple of weeks ago that one of my friends is involved in what his firm called a benevolence scheme. So he, for every hour that he takes part in voluntary work, he gets a set amount of money, and he can give that to a charity of his choice.
Wow! Okay.
So he coaches his kids' football team. So for every hour, he works for a big American company.
Yeah.
They give him $15 an hour for each volunteer. So every week he's taking the kids to training. He gets 15 quid for that, and he puts it in a pot. Yeah, and he's sort of he's saying to me, "Oh, I've got, if you want to do it, I've got 500 quid sat there doing nothing." And he's giving it to people to go on scout jamborees and all sorts of stuff because he just gets that money. So that might be another thing. I think really ask at work, go to HR, go to your boss and ask, because you don't get anything for nothing. You've got to, it's a stress, and you've got to sort the situation out yourself. So put your big boy boots on and go round to knock on the door of the HR people and say, what's going on? Can you help me out?
Where are you with this sort of charity running? Because obviously this is sort of right now. It's like the next big route after you get that ballot rejection. Where are you with this sort of stuff? Got experience?
I have done London Marathon for a charity place, and like Wilco says, it's stressful. And if you haven't done it, I would say it's as stressful, and if not more demanding than the actual training plan. Having an 18-week plan running 3 or 4 times a week is tough, but then you overlay that with all the stress of the targets and who do I ask and how do I ask, and if it's only rolling in dribs and drabs, what else can I do? And there's lots of advice out there. The charity I worked for or ran for ended up having me on board acting as a bit of a coach. So I saw them go through the process for 4 consecutive years, and they put a lot of support into every runner in terms of coming up with ideas and sharing ideas and having forums. But I think you touched on it, Chris. It's fine the first time you do it, and you've probably done it for a half, and everyone thinks, oh, well, poor chap, poor miss, we'll lob them a few quid. But if it's every year, you just can't ask. It's really difficult, doesn't it?
It's a tough one. Right, Jai, so we basically, we've done the charity route, right? And it's not, as you said, it's not that many charity places around. There's also, I think they restrict as well, London Marathon, the number of charities that they give these things out to. You have to
Correct.
apply. There's an application process. I've been through the application process when I was working one of the charities, and it's not a straightforward thing. So again, you know, the charities are up against it because they're trying to apply for this and that. Which again, I go back to my original point with the London Marathon, which is where I think they need to have a really good look at themselves. They need, as I said a million times, charge everybody 250 quid, and all the charities that didn't get those gold and silver places, the 100 quid that, or 150 quid that you've made extra, put that into a pot and go, you know what, you didn't get a spot, but here's a share of 5 million quid. Have some of that. And they'll go, oh, lovely, thanks very much. Do you know what I mean? That's the sensible thing to do. That London Marathon, instead of chasing, let's go and do 2 days, 100,000 people and make as much money as we can and show the world how amazing we are because we're bigger than New York Marathon. No, hang on a second. Let's think about this totally outside the box, do something really cool. And those charities who are unable because they're so small, you know, put them into a pot, get that money from people. That actually decrease the amount of people that are applying for the London Marathon, because 250 quid's a big shock when that comes straight out of your bank account. And that money, you chuck it to them and go, you know what? We're looking after you as well. So that's another way to do it, right? Because as I said, the charities have to apply for it, and it ain't a straightforward process. It's quite a grueling process that they have to go through, a vetting and all this sort of stuff. And those smaller ones do miss out. Right, Jai, so we failed miserably at charities. Have I got any other options?
Yeah, so there's a couple of places. So I think if we just do a touch on the Good for Age and the Championship. So you obviously have Good for Ages, which for London, unsurprisingly, is you have to be in some incredible shape to make some of these. And even if you do make the Good for Age, exactly, I think it's 238 sorry, that's for the championship, actually. Sorry, the championship is for 238, but let me start with the Good for Age. The Good for Age, you have to meet a certain time, which is something I think in around the 250s at the moment. But that doesn't mean you get in. That means that you can apply for the Good for Age. Mm-hmm. Typically, year on year, you know, you get so much, you know, so many more people applying, so many more people getting fitter, etc. That really comes down. So if you are, say, running a 2:49.59 and the cutoff is 2:50, 2 hours 50 for Good for Age, you're not making that. I think this year it was something like a slippage of about 5.5 to 6 minutes at the top
it's quite
end.
tough. Yeah, it's tough to get into.
But obviously now, you know, the older age brackets you get up, the less slippage there is. But it's still very tough. You know, very, very tough to get in that way. Yeah. And I think but there is about 6,000 spots up for grabs in the Good for Age, and that's split evenly between the men and the women.
Well, that's
interesting. Yeah,
good. You know that.
And interestingly, on the women, the most subscribed demographic for this year's London Marathon is actually 20 to 29-year-old women.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant.
It's incredible to see. Really, really good.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, now let you in a little secret. Us three here ain't going to be going Good for Age. Not
you and me.
Well, I was like, whoa. No, but
speak for yourself.
Age category this year, so I think my time has come down by about 15 minutes.
What it is, Al?
Yeah, I'm just getting older, and well, yeah. Enough said.
He's going on a long-term plan for his big.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start a campaign. I genuinely, seriously think if you get to the age of 80 and you can run a marathon, you should just be allowed to run it.
I'm with you.
With you. Absolutely,
I'm with you.
So I'm on the long-term plan, 20 plus years, and I should be all right.
Do it.
Yeah, that's something to aim for, Al. They might do that by there. I've got 26 years to go. You never know.
And the competition kind of decreases over time as well, so your chances just go up exponentially.
It might just be me and you.
Yeah, it's just you two on the start line. It'd be brilliant.
Sorry, Joe, we've kind of gone down a bit of a rabbit hole here. Sorry.
Yeah, that's from here.
Okay. Anyway.
Right. So now for London, we're not going to go into tour entries because obviously we're all based here. Yeah. Now, our friend Paul from Sports Tours loves that because he runs that. So he's like, yeah, lovely, bring those Americans over. And it was something like 200,000 international runners applied this year out of that, whatever it was, ridiculous number. It's like 200,000. So if you're listening to this, like we get a lot of people listening to this in the Philippines. They'll be all over that. So just give Paul a shout. Now, Al, I'm going to switch this around because Al benefits slightly from this, but the affiliated club ballot. So 40 Rounds Running Club, largest club in the country, we used to get 4 places, but because those places weren't taken up by every club, they reduced that down. So despite us being the size that we are, we get just 2, which is, I've campaigned and I've had a discussion many times with England Athletics. We could carve the club up into 10, 15 lots to try and get multiple marathon places, but they didn't seem to like that idea. Shocking, really. Well, you could, Wilco, you think about it. You create 10, for argument's sake, constitutions, 10 committees, 10 welfare officers, you go down that road and you go and get your spots. We've got the numbers. It's not a problem. They weren't too keen on that idea. But the point is that you get 2. Okay. Now, where we are absolutely at, and I'm so glad Al's on to talk about this. What's amazing is our volunteers, because of the hard work that they do, London Marathon events, to give them credit, because I always give them a hard time, they give London Marathon spots. So that's another way to get into London Marathon, is firstly join an affiliated club. I mean, something like 40 Rounds, obviously, with what we do, but also our volunteering. We are the largest club to send volunteers to events, right? I'm so proud of this, and I will talk to my blue in the face about this, and all of the people who run this, like Mel, Carolyn, Paula, all that are team involved, but then all the volunteers, like Al and everybody else. It's another way to get into the London Marathon, right, Al?
Yeah, so we have 2 ballots, don't we? One for London, and because London Marathon Events now runs Brighton, we also do it for Brighton. And I was unfortunate enough to have my name drawn out for the Brighton one. So I deliberately hadn't entered, like stuff that. These marathons are a long way. And lo and behold, get the email, "Oh, congratulations, you've been lucky." And you go, "Oh, no." But no, on a serious point, I've been lucky enough to get the spot for Brighton, and Carolyn managed to get London the first year. And the shirt weighs heavy, to kind of quote, the others and other sports, but you kind of run with an extra little bit of pride, because you've been fortunate enough to be selected, and it's done, as you know, on this show,
live
with the machine that Mel uses to do all this and keep us all in train with the volunteer spots. But it is really, it's a special moment when you kind of go out and run London or Brighton representing the club, because you feel everyone behind you. So yeah, absolutely. Volunteer. You never know where it will lead to. Could be down the Mall later on in the year.
And then full circle, I go back to her story. Jay, just one of our ladies. I mean, she just volunteered relentlessly, and then it was her 50th birthday, and she got pulled out for the London Marathon to run her first London Marathon, and she represented the club this year. It's an unbelievable story. So that's another way in, people, right, Jay? That's another way in. What else outside of that? Like, so let's say, right, we can't do any of that. What about the other? Have you got any data on the other world majors, like how to get into them?
Yeah.
Right,
so
give us some info.
London has the most options. Of the biggest. It also has the worst odds, right?
Right.
Now, the other majors, they're still not great, but they're substantially better. So Tokyo's something in the region of around 10%, Berlin's 20%, Chicago's 25%, New York, I think, is around 4 or 5%. But New York, I'm just going to go on to this one because this one's an interesting one that I think a lot of people in the UK would really like London to operate, and they run a 90+1 or 15 years members guaranteed routine, where I think the 9+1 is if you applied for 9 times to the New York Marathon and not got in, and you've done some volunteering for the New York Marathon, which is a condition for it, you effectively build a loyalty, and you are able to then get yourself a place somewhere down the line.
I like it.
So I think a lot of people have been clamoring that for London for years, and that was when London was several 100,000, not 1.3 million. So there's that one with New York, Boston obviously qualifying only, and then Sydney, the new one. That was around 25 to 30%, because there was about 400,000 entries last year. But again, these are all last year's data, right?
Yeah,
We saw, I think, an 18% uplift in people applying to London for this year. I mean, it's only going to be that and more for the other ones. If and they're expensive to get there for you and I. If we think where we are, it's cheaper for us to pay the full charity entry to London ourselves than it probably is to fly to Sydney for.
Well, this is a good argument in a way, and the money's going to a really good cause, So the I don't know, let's say the $3,000 it costs you to do New York City Marathon, you could turn around and go, actually $3,000, I could stay at home and I could do London, and charity's going to benefit. It's an interesting way of looking at it, isn't it?
Yep. Now there are charity routes for all of these. They're less aggressive than London by quite some way. It's usually something in the 500 to 1,500 range. But there's not that many alternate routes, in all honesty, for the other ones. It's typically, in terms of a percentage, they're good for range, and they're
you got time qualifications like Chicago, things like that. But I mean, Tokyo time qualification, you've got to be Kipchoge, and it's just, I think New York's quite tough as well.
New York's punchy.
Yeah, it's interesting you said 10% on Tokyo. I mean, I don't know any. I think Hayden's the only person I know to have got Tokyo through Ballot. Ben went down charity route because he wanted it for his 6 stars, but I don't think
there were 2 or 3. We had Adele on. Do you remember when we had Adele on the chat?
Oh yeah, she got it.
Nicky Dennis has done it. He got a Ballot place in Tokyo.
Yeah, Ballot Boy, his nickname is.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And the other, don't forget, Joe, I don't know if you'd ever looked at this sort of stuff with what you do, but Abbott's have their own ballots. So I'm currently sitting in there for. I didn't get Sydney, which is handy really because I didn't have the money. But I'm in there for Boston and I'm in there for Tokyo because they're the other 2.
Now you have to have 2 qualifying marathons, don't you, to be in the Abbott's ballot? I think it's 2.
Yeah, how's that work, mate? How's that work then?
I think to get to enter like one of them. I can't remember if it's Boston. You have to do 4, get 4 stars.
Boston's a tougher route in, and then, the Abbott's.
But if you've got like 3 stars, that opens up maybe Chicago. I'm making this up. I'm not 100% sure, but that opens it up. But obviously, it might open up Berlin. But I've done Berlin, so I'm not really sure. But it opens up a ballot effectively. So I always go in, and there's the other cool thing with Abbott's. This is another ways to get into them. They run like these. Like virtual stuff that, back in COVID when there was all like virtual stuff, you can go and do. And I did one, and that's how I got into the sort of Sydney ballot that I failed miserably in. But I had to enter like a half marathon or marathon distance. It cost me like $30 or something. I thought, you know what, let's roll the dice. It's only like going down to the casino, isn't it? And that got me into another ballot. So there's other ways you could do it, but obviously it doesn't help if you want to do it. Nothing.
That still exists for Tokyo. So I think they run it 4 or 5 times a year. It is virtual. So over the window, which is normally about 2 to 3 weeks, you have to run the qualifying distance. It's not always in one go. Sometimes it's 13 miles. Sometimes it's 26 miles, but over 4 weeks. And as you said, you then go into a ballot, and normally it's about 50 spaces. So across the year, it's 200, 250. And if you're in the Facebook groups, you do see the people that win those ballots. It's genuine. And I think it costs about 9 or 10 quid to enter each qualifying period. So as you say, for a little bit of money, it's kind of like a free option. Yeah.
I'm only going to spend that on crisps. I think it's I think it's good. I think, do you know what I mean? I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this. But like, if London did something similar like this, do you know what I mean? What do you think about? Would that work? Do you reckon?
I think it would be good, right? But then the problem runs into, I think you said this on a pod a couple of weeks ago, is that London's, what was it, 50-odd thousand people this time, right? It's chaos out there. Like, I haven't ran it, but I've seen it's almost carnage. For some people it's not. Don't use the term spoiling the experience, but it takes something away, right? It really is. So do you then oversubscribe, as in move the amount of ballot entries up to 60 or 75 and add these additional ways in, or do you take those entries out of another pool? I think it's in a really precarious position, London, at the moment. I mean, I personally don't think the answer is a 2-day event.
It's not.
Not for me. I don't have the answer. I mean, I wish I did. But it's really tough. It's really tough to think about this new ways.
Yeah, go on, Milko, go on.
It's very difficult because they make the rules, and really, it's not their problem that we can't get into this race.
You can have VAR. You have VAR.
You know, it's like people saying, "Oh, it costs too much to go to football" and things like that. There's enough people who pay it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter that we're sitting here and we can't get in year in, year out. They're still getting 50,000 people to do it. They're still getting enough charity places to do it. They're still raising more money than they ever did.
And,
so
that's the ultimate aim, right? Their
what's the problem?
Aim.
They ain't got the problem.
That is a vehicle. That is a vehicle. Obviously, you've got the championship side of things with the elites, but ultimately, the London Marathon's main goal is to raise as much money for good causes as humanly possible, which is an unbelievable thing. When you take away, you strip all this shit away, right? It's absolutely amazing that as runners we can go out and be part of that is actually changing people's lives somewhere. Yeah. And I think it is hard to separate that from getting really annoyed because you've been in the ballot 32 times and you've not got a place, or you missed out on the qualifying time by 3 seconds because they had a big surge of people who are coming, or whatever it is, and the frustrations that come out of the ballot system. You do have to take a step back and go, you know what? In fairness to London Marathon, at the heart of what's going on there is people's lives are being changed by the money that's being raised. And I get it 100%. But as I think we've seen tonight, there are options. Yeah. Charities are the most obvious. And I appreciate, the amount of money that's involved there. But if you want to get into it, and do this for like once, the charity is the best option because people will support you. They will back you because you're not going there cup in hand 8 times. Do you know what I mean? People will get behind you. And I think it's definitely the thing to do. Don't be scared to take a charity place with a $3,000 price target on it for your first one, because you'll be surprised how many people will support you, especially if you're picking a charity that means the world to you. Yeah. Then I think you will easily do that. It's, as I said, it's people like me who done it like 7 times. Hey, you got 50 quid kicking about. I get it, right? But then is that right? Another thing, I don't know. Maybe it should be. But should you only be able to do it within a 5-year period, 3 times or something? I don't know, just to give more people a chance. I wouldn't have a problem with it. If they said, new rule, you're not allowed, you've done the London Marathon 3 times in the last 5 years or whatever, or the last 3 times in a row, you're on the subs bench. I wouldn't have a problem with that because it gives other people a chance. Isn't it?
I think a lot of people wouldn't. I know a lot of people who've run it, regularly, 3 or 4 times, say, in the last 10 years, and they said that they wouldn't have a problem. I think one solution I heard one of them say that was a good one would be actually the more times you enter, the more times rejected, similar to the New York, but not quite the same. You build up a bit of a higher percentage, which is definitely, for listeners, not the case right now. I know I've heard some people think that you do, the more times you get rejected, the higher percentage chance you get. Not the case right now. It's not like that. But that could be an option, is if you have an extra percent added to your account's probability each year that you enter and get rejected, perhaps something along the lines of that, to add a bit of fairness into it. That way, you're not completely cutting out the people who have run it and still want to continue run it, but you're putting a bit of leveling the playing field a bit.
Yeah, as you say, and then the guys were saying, or whoever was saying about you volunteer, right? That goes against that increases your odds by 2%.
And also, what we haven't touched upon, I mean, obviously, we're talking about there are a lot of big races around that you can do. Alternatives. I've done Dublin. I've done Yorkshire, Leeds, Manchester, Brighton. There's loads of great marathons out there. If you really want to have a stab at having a go at 26.2, there are options out there. You could do others. I did Paris and it was brilliant. 50-odd thousand people in one of the best cities in the world. You know, we're going to Amsterdam. We're going to have a great time there. You know, there's loads of there are loads of options available.
100%.
There is a bit of ballot creep coming in, though. We've already touched on the super halves, but this year I've just had my email saying Copenhagen, which I've run twice, and absolutely love it. It's one of my favourite cities to run in. It's gone to ballot for 2027, and it's frustrating because then when there's two of you in the family, like Carolyn, you kind of go, "What's the chances of getting 2 ballot places?" You kind of go, "It's not going to happen, is it?"
I'm with you on that, Al. Yeah, go on,
sorry, mate. I was saying, then you have the opposite thing. It's like you're ploughing in all these ballots, and you think, "What if I get them all?"
Well, it's like Mark down in Southend, wasn't it? It was like Mark down in Southend. I'll never forget. I was running down Southend, and I bumped into Mark, and he's got, "Oh, FORDY, I've had one." I said, "What's the matter?" I've got in this, I've got in that, I've got in that. And the same, don't forget, the same happened to Ben. Like,
can't not.
Ben got in, he got into all these ballots as well. Like, he's got Sydney, he's got no, like, not being horrible, he's got no interest running it, like, when he got it, because he's got so much else on. We've got, like, Amsterdam and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, he got injured, but he didn't know that when he got in. He got in the ballot. I mean, that's just the way of it. I mean, in a way, it's cool. But at the same time, you're like, oh, well, here we go. I don't know what the future is. Jai, give us again a bit of background where people can find out more information on ballots and things like that with yourself as we close this out.
Yeah, sure. So I'm currently operating over at Ballot.run, which is with 1 L, 2 T's. That isn't intentional mistake. So over there, we've currently got all the information on when the ballots are open. I'm currently monitoring the super halves, the majors, and a couple of the other high profile ones that have been and are now switching over to ballots. So over there's that, some general sort of guides on how the ballot works and what your chances are. But also just sort of touching on the last bit we just covered there, actually sort of trying to push people more towards these other races in the UK. There's, like, as you said, there's some fantastic races out there that, it doesn't have to be London. Okay, London's great. London's, hot property, but there's so many fantastic races in the UK and in Europe. So we've currently got a UK race calendar over there that's sort of, that if you put your postcode in, it'll tell you what's near to you. And I'm kind of looking at just trying to spread the love with people. Not trying to pigeonhole everyone down into these, if that is your cup of tea. So over at Ballot.run. I also do a weekly newsletter digest on there out to subscribers with a bit of flavour on what's sort of going on in the ballot world, or also equally what a bit of a city guide, for example. Like, I'm planning on running the super halves over the next 18 months. I plan on doing a bit of where to stay, where to eat, those, how to travel, those kind of things. So it's just a bit of a an all-round flavour into those. Exactly. Just trying to give a bit back to the community.
Yeah, it's a clever idea, mate. And it's a clever idea. Well done on you. So go and check that out, guys. Super interesting. Thanks very much for your time tonight. We really appreciate you coming on.
No, I really appreciate it. Yes,
boys, thank you very much. I'm now going to go and look at what else I could do. Does anyone know if Cape Town's a ballot as well? Is that a ballot? I'm not sure.
Not at the moment, because I think it didn't they have they had an issue last year, didn't they, with the weather, which wasn't a good look, because they were applying to be one of the majors. So I think that's kind of kept the applicants down.
Just on that, Cape Town, have you seen the goodie bag for this year's runners?
Yeah,
they're getting last year's medal. How cool is that? I'll
be honest with you. The whole Cape Town thing has really caught my attention the last couple of days. It just looks really, really cool.
And no jet lag.
Yeah, no, overnight flights straight there, innit? Bosh, have some of that.
Right
no,
there.
But the only thing is, it'd probably be about 10 million quid, because BA will go, "Oh, I've had a brilliant idea." You know what I mean? It's like, we're the only guys who fly it.
Yeah, we need our own airline, mate. That's what we need.
You need to sort that out after Extreme Park Run.
I'm talking to Dan the pilot. Don't worry. Regular conversations.
Be like Iron Maiden, when he had the plane.
When was it right? And we were pumping him for how much is it going to cost. It is quite expensive. That's the only drawback. It's
Isn't
quite expensive.
All right, chaps. Look, thanks so much. Interested as always. We appreciate the time. Next week we've got no idea what's coming on as always. It's a bit of a lottery, really. It's a bit
Bit of a ballot.
a bit of a ballot, really. What comes out every week on this podcast now, but surprising, it's award winning. Anyway, thanks very much, chaps. We shall see you all soon.
Yeah.